Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Sober Life Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jones. I want to thank you for joining us today. I know it's early in the day, and maybe you're catching this on a repeat. Either way, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, SoberLifeStudios.com or the ATCnetwork.com. You can go to either one of those. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Keep abreast of the shows that we're doing. We like to do this show to bring to you stories about success in recovery and beyond that, things that people do to enhance their lives. It's not just about the alcohol and drugs. It's about making a better life for yourself, and that's what we like to talk about. So please, and if you happen to be watching us right now live, your comments, you can leave a comment on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. It'll pop up, and we can answer your questions while we're live here. Today's special guest is a good friend of mine, Joe Kelley. We've known each other now, I don't know how many years.
A long time.
It's been a long time. And we had crossed paths years ago. We were trying to work at the same place, other things like that. Anyway, bottom line, fate has brought us together again to do a lot of great projects. And Joe, it's great to have you here, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I always, it's a blessing, to be able to come in here and share some space with you. So thank you.
No, it's always my pleasure for sure. A lot of times, we spend a lot of time talking about people's path to addiction and, what got them into addiction and recovery. You and I have talked a little bit about that in the past, and we're going to be doing another show this afternoon with our friends Mark Astor at 5 o'clock today, if you want to catch that. Today, I'd really like to focus on kind of what happens after you recover, or what happens after you get sober.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, did you have like a lot of relapses when you were trying to get sober?
Oh, absolutely. It was funny. I was speaking at the LAP convention, and I was telling a story with the mass laborers unit, and one of the guys overheard me. He's like, "Joe, the cop," and he goes, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I go, "No." He goes, "We were in detox together," and he was referring to the first detox I'd ever gone in my life, which I don't remember much of anything. and then I still didn't recognize him, right? And he goes, You let me use the phone that you snuck in. And my first thought was, of course I did. You know what I mean? Because that was the first of many. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it was a long road for me. I tell a lot of people and share my story that hopefully they don't have to be like me and learn it the hard way. It's that old saying, a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So.
There you go. And a lot of this can be found in your book, Badge, Bars, and Beyond, or Badge, Bars to Beyond, I should say. You can find that on YouTube or Amazon. You can go to their website, badgebarsbeyond.com, and get more information about the book. And you explain a lot about this. You were getting sober while you were a police officer. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, actually, what happened was the wheels fell off the bus. And my attempt at sobriety wasn't until after I left the force.
You didn't have any attempts while you were on the force?
Not one single attempt.
Oh, wow.
And because of my status and within the community and who I was, I was taking stuff to feel right again, and I hit it very well. At least I thought I did. And I did for quite a while. And then when the disease progressed, that's when stuff started to come out, and I was given the ultimatum of resigning. And I took that. But when I took that, it wasn't so much, the loss of the job, which was obviously a big thing for me, but it was the loss of my friends. The loss of my family, the loss of my financial stability, the loss of self and my identity.
Wow. So was there a part of that where being the first responder, the police officer or something, did that give you some sort of feeling of invincibility in a sense, that because you're the cop, you're the big guy, did that hurt you in recognizing problems right away? Or
Yeah, for me, it hurt me on the inside because from day one in the police academy, as a first responder, police officer, high ranking at that, we're taught to give the help, not ask for the help. So those feelings of, and especially being a man too, and being an alpha man, it was the guilt, the shame, those internal emotions, knowing that, once I started to see the red flags and knowing what I started to do was wrong and not being able to stop, and not being able to talk to anybody about it, because of what was embedded in me.
Right.
But also, all I did was way back then, I surrounded myself. My whole life was law enforcement. All my friends were law enforcement officers. And for me to come out and say something like that, the stigma that I thought that would come with that, the betrayal, etc. And then the losses that, obviously the dishonesty and everything I was trying to hide, eventually I lost anyway.
Yeah. What was your exit? I know you spent some time in jail.
I did.
Which must have been a
State
very
prison.
strange thing to be on the other side of those bars, huh?
You have no idea. I mean, it wasn't like I was at a county jail. I was in state prison, and for the things that I did while active addiction, and I was in the blocks. And my mentality back then, was at the point where, suicidal ideation, putting my gun in my mouth, not having, the grit to pull the trigger, but wanting to, living every day, hoping I didn't wake up to relive the next day, and then walking into prison, them trying to PC me because of who I was, because for obvious reasons, and me signing out because my mentality is I can't do it. I want someone else to do it for me. And that didn't even come to fruition because I'm standing here today, so for me, big part of my life, my staples is God, family, and helping others, because I don't know how that happened when you got people yelling from another block, 5 O's in that block,
Wow. You were you arrested while you were still an active officer, or had you left the force before you got in trouble?
No, I had left the force.
Okay.
My first arrest was, after quite some warnings from people that I knew, and me just not caring or maybe not paying attention to my state of mind. I was arrested only once, but every time I went into court for the arraignment or the case got continued, I'd have like 10 other charges that came up against me.
Jeez.
Because at the end of it, I was up to like 50 something odd charges, but all of it was non-violent criminal drug offenses, credit card theft, fraud, sending in bad checks,
I'm sure possession.
Yeah, and then there was a couple of possession charges, and obviously the big one, the one I was actually arrested for trafficking. You know what I mean? Because of the amount that I had on me.
Did you cross state lines?
Well, it was coming through the mail and everything else. But they didn't charge me or indict me federally. And I can remember going to district court every day for the charges, and more charges would come on and more charges would come on. And the district court judge actually said, and I think the DA and everyone, they were trying to give me some time to get my stuff together. I didn't see it, and I didn't want to live. And I didn't think I'd live to see the consequences. And every time I went in there, the judge finally said, "Are we going to indict this guy or what?" And they finally indicted me to Supreme Court. And I can remember, going to Supreme Court the morning of, sleeping on my uncle's couch, grabbing whatever clothes that I had left and going into court, thinking that I'm going to be going home right after I go into court for the arraignment in Supreme Court. And I remember the judge, it was Judge Nickerson. And he said to me, he goes, "I don't know how you've been able to stay on the street this long." He goes, and he held me on a $10,000 bail. And the thing is at that point in my life, I didn't have $10,000. My wife wasn't around. She had taken the kids. Family wasn't talking to me. I had no friends left in my life, and it like hit me right there of, what do you mean I'm not going home?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I got to tell you, it's got to be surreal to go from, you were a sports guy. You played a lot of sports.
Yeah, paid my way. Yeah, paid my way for college. I went to school on a football and baseball scholarship. I came from, middle-class family. I was always the big fish in the little pond in terms of my athletic ability. Went to college. That paid for college, got out, within a year, I was my dream job of being a police officer, rise through the ranks in terms of I was K9, implemented the K9 unit there.
Wow.
I was on the emergency response team for all the southeastern Mass, and I got hurt. I got hurt on a job, and the long story short was, as a police officer, I saw a lot of things, especially on those special teams, a lot of things on a daily basis most people don't see in their lifetime.
Right.
And it started to affect me on the inside, and I stuffed it all in. And then when I got hurt, I got prescribed Oxycontin back in the days that they give the cancer patient because I had complications from knee surgery.
Wow.
And I got hooked on them because they numbed the pain that I already had on the inside.
Wow.
And then as every story goes, I ran and got angry until the wheels fall off the bus. And, thank God today that I'm still here.
Now, a lot of people have their own personal stories. I have mine for recovery. And I know that, there was a lot of shame. There was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of, feeling less than, and there's a lot of things. But here we are. You're a sports star. You got the whole town rooting for you, kind of, at the baseball game or the football game. You go on to college. You're a police officer. You got, you demand some respect, and you got some things. It's all this. You put your life at a level that's up here, and then to go all the way down to jail. What was that sitting like inside of you while you were sitting in prison? To think about that journey and where you were at. I mean, how low did that make? How low were you at that point?
Well, it started with, I think the turning point for me was the arrest. And we all talk about in recovery doing your fourth step and this and that. I mean, when I eventually got there years later doing it was very easy for me because most of my stuff was splattered against the front page of the paper in every place you could imagine in the state of Massachusetts. Front headlines, everything that I did was out there. So when I was sitting in jail replaying all this, it's 1 minute I was on top of the world, and the next minute I'm sitting in a cell going, how the hell did I get here? After a couple of days of just sitting there and going, how did this happen?
And the media loves to put those pictures up of you scoring a touchdown next to you in your arrest photo, next to you in your police officer uniform, and next to they love to put all that stuff out there just to show the tragic nature of it. So at what point did you decide you needed to start changing? I mean, I understand you didn't have success right away, but what point did it strike you, I've got to do something different?
That I think the will to live, changed when I was in prison. I started reading about other people that had come back. I've always been obviously an athlete. I always loved the comeback story. I always loved to see success stories. I love to see somebody come from nothing and turn their life around. And I was reading a lot more in prison than I had nothing else to do besides that and work out and watch my back. And I dug into stuff like that because it really motivated me. And my mindset changed just by reading and journaling is, instead of why me, I started saying, why not me? I started to look at things in a positive aspect, despite the position and situation that I was in. And for me, at the time I had two daughters, and I started to say to myself, even though I couldn't talk to them and there was struggle between me and the mother, maybe I'm going through this so they never have to. I started to align myself in different positive mindsets to get myself through what I was going through. And on the journey and road to more personal development, more different ways of bettering myself personally and professionally. And it took a while, but obviously today, I love the life that I do have.
You said you weren't successful on your first try.
No.
And it's, and that's, there's people that are, there's people that aren't successful on their first time. Doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's important in your story.
Right.
But it's not because you were worse than anybody else. Just some things don't reach us in a certain way.
Right.
What was the difference between the first time you went in where it didn't work at all, you barely remember it, and the last time when it did work? What changed during that time? What was it that you found in yourself that was the key to successful recovery?
For me, the last time I ever relapsed was after the death of my cousin We were out in a boating accident. I was sober at the time, and I almost drowned. He ended up going under, and he lost his life in front of me. And he was probably one of the bigger motivators in my entire life from a young age, because he was like 6 years older than me until that day. And no matter what happened in my life, a lot of people, for me, I had a lot of people that were there to jump in the limo, so to speak. But when the wheels fell off, there was no one there to help me push.
Right.
And
Right.
I had a solid 2 people that are no longer with me in my life today, that were always there, always being positive. And I had said to myself after that day, after picking up, and I said, what am I doing? And I started to live my life for other people that were no longer here, like main, real important people in my life, until I could start living it for myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to this day, I still talk to them. One of them, I have the ashes in my car. Call me crazy.
You said he was a motivator. He still is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
His spirit or his guidance
absolutely.
is kind of like he's your Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will.
Yeah. Because here it is, Scott. I don't know why I was chosen by God, to get through most of the stuff that I've got through in my life, which was pretty bad. And others aren't. But it's my responsibility to do something with that. It's my responsibility to give back any which way that I possibly can. And I get emotional when I talk about it, because for me, there was 2 very, very, very main people in my life that got me up to the point of where I was. And I'm not talking about the negative parts. I'm talking about the good parts of my life, because I had a very good life up until all this stuff went downhill. Those people don't have a chance to live life. Those people don't have a chance to be around their kids. Those people don't have a chance to do anything more in life. So I take that very seriously, because they spent and had such an impact in my life that it's my responsibility to make something with my life to make an impact in other people's lives.
I love that. Absolutely. There are people from my past that did not make it.
Yeah.
There's people that died from the disease that you and I suffer from. But they still are my guiding light.
Yeah.
In a sense, they suffered, so I didn't have to. And there's almost a responsibility that goes with that. It's like, it's almost as they passed the torch to us and said, you have to carry this now.
Yeah.
You don't get to quit. So that's awesome. So what did you figure out for you? Because sports guy, police, whatever, what was your journey turning into once you started to find recovery, as far as what you wanted to do with your life? How did that start to come about? Because what you're doing now is amazing, and we're going to get to that. But How did that journey come about?
My wife, my current wife, got me involved in some different modalities. And, as you'll read in my book, I share a little bit about it, is she got me involved in different modalities that I never would have signed up for myself. I would have never took the initiative, to go that route. And the reason why I signed up for her is because when I first met her, she was involved in a lot. And it's a funny story, but it changed my life. Is I signed up with it because I wanted to be a part of her life. So I'm like, let me do some things that she's doing. But when I started to do them, I was like, it was such a change in my own life that I got sucked in, and those first modalities were simple things like meditation, yoga. I would have never done those things ever in my life, but doing them and taking the initiative and having her push me to do them, or me just wanting to do them because she's there, which is the funny part, it started to have an effect on me. It gave me more peace. And then the next step was life-changing for me, was when she asked me, when she was getting certified in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, if I would like to do it. And I, of course, said yeah, because I wanted to do it with her. And let me tell you what, I talk about that all the time now. Not only did I do it, I became a master trainer in it, and then I became a trainer in it. Which now I certify, train, and educate people around the world in. And it has changed. It not only did it make me a better husband, a better father, it made me a better human being.
Wow. And this all lends itself towards a sober lifestyle as well, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the key for a lot of people out there, is to understand it's not enough to put down the drink or the drug. It's not enough to do that. It's not even enough to do that and go to meetings or to get a sponsor and do all. You have to build a life that's worth keeping,
Absolutely.
that's worth coveting and holding on to. Because if you're not building a life, if your whole life is only about don't drink and don't use, that's all it's ever going to be. And and we've met those people, right? Those are the people that, they've been sober for 30 years and they're like, I might not be sober tomorrow. And it's like, why? If you had the right life, so, what kind of things did you discover about you? Because you were at that low point in jail, in prison, where it's like, okay, I had a shot at a great life and I kind of blew it all. And it's like, my name's in the papers. When did you moved into this life? And yes, so you followed your wife through some of this stuff. Yeah. So, hey, half the things men have ever done in their lives has been to impress a woman. We know that. It's a fact.
Good or bad.
We don't think of that shit on our own. We're just not that smart. But what did you start to figure out about you? Did you start to learn about like new things about you that you didn't know about you before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, with NLP and hypnosis and time techniques, all these different modalities that I got trained in, I actually learned about myself while doing it. Because one of the biggest thing was, within NLP, you can use different modalities to get rid of limited beliefs. Huge for me, to get
Let's define that real quick. Yeah. Limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Believing that I can't accomplish or do something for some reason or another.
And 90% of the time when you feel like you can't do something, that's your own voice speaking to you. That's not a hard rule anywhere. Once in a while, it's like when you're standing on a building and says, I can't fly. That's a rule of physics. We're gonna go with that. Yeah. But if you're saying I can't have that job, I can't do this, can't do that, those are limiting beliefs that you had to get rid of for you, right?
Yeah, and I had to get rid of them. But not only did I have to get rid of them, these were some of the things that I had in my mind that society had put on me. Now I'm a convicted felon, right? So now I can't go out and do this or do that or make the money that I want to make or help the people that I want to help because I have all this stacked against me. Do you know what I mean? And then there's my anger management around all of that. Right. I do timeline techniques and getting rid of, my anger, my sadness, my guilt, because that all played into stuff that was holding me back for being the best version of myself that I could possibly be. You mean it was life changing when I started to remove those limited beliefs of just because I'm a felon and just because 150 other people couldn't do it. Why does that mean I can't do it? When did I decide that? Right. So I started to motivate myself, to say, hey, there is no failure. There's only feedback. It's how you apply that feedback and press on.
There's also something about, it's going through your mind, your next con. That's never going to change. But it can either be a weakness or a strength.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people out there who have had a hard journey, they're still dragging this journey behind them like it's a weight, like it's a bad thing.
Right.
Were you able to flip the switch on that and turn the fact that your journey took you from Yale to jail, if you will? Were you able to? When did that transition happen where that became your strength and not a weakness anymore?
I mean, I think after I became a trainer in NLP, and doing a lot of work on myself, which wasn't a long time. It was literally a year and a half where I decided that, maybe by me being boisterous about my mistakes and what I went through, it will help those that are dying silently that aren't as boisterous. Yeah, we all know those people that are struggling that we can see and that we've talked to, and maybe they're friends. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people out there struggling you don't even know about. You know what I mean? Because they hide it very well. They walk around with a smile. I say to people all the time, that's one of my biggest things is smile at everyone. You never know what somebody's going through.
And you don't know that the story you share isn't going to connect with somebody who's going to say, I can talk to him.
Yeah. But like, for instance, Scott, for myself, who's done a lot of work on myself, who's clawed his way out right? And I'll sit and I'm talking, with a bunch of, millionaires on improving their bottom line with their companies, right? And then I'll get vulnerable and share my story, and they're just, huh? They don't recognize that person.
Right.
They don't see that, right? It's the same thing when you walk around within public. I don't know what that person's going through. I don't know what that person's going through, but it's cost us nothing to be kind.
So you opened this company.
Yeah.
You and your wife.
Yeah.
You want to give her name on the
Yeah,
air?
Dr. Maritza Izagiri Kelley. She's a lot smarter than I am.
And she's fantastic, by the way. Warm, charming, just brilliant. You're right. She is absolutely brilliant. You guys start this company called Obtaining Mastery. Mm-hmm. Tell me, where did this come from, this concept, and what exactly are you guys trying to accomplish with this?
The concept, it basically is about certifying. We found that my wife wrote a book a long time ago called Get Off the Couch. Wasn't very popular with the therapeutic type of community, for obvious reasons. But our thought process is going through NLP and being able to get somebody, from one situation to the situation they want very fast and effortlessly over sitting on a couch. And there's nothing wrong with talk therapy. I'm not saying anything like, I think it has its place. I think it works
in combination with other things.
Yes. So she had been doing this prior to me coming in, and I joined forces with her. And what we do is we certify people, and it's 5 different modalities. It can be NLP, hypnosis, time techniques, EFT, and life coaching. It's from anybody that's looking for professional growth or personal growth. Whether it's high executive CEOs that are trying to clean up their communication skills, improve their bottom line, or if it's just somebody who's first starting out like I was years ago, that wants to do some good work on themselves, whether they choose to work with individuals or they're just there to work on themselves. I love what we do. And then we also teamed up. I'm the union liaison for CWA Local 3140. We train reps, EAP reps across the nation in terms of the airlines, in different types of things, as we teamed up with you and Karen.
Yeah.
Do to teach them? For me, the one thing, my big target right today is mental health, and breaking the stigma of what mental health is. Because when people think of mental health, most people think of somebody sitting in a straitjacket, hospital setting with higher disorders. It's not. We all struggle with mental health, stress, burnout, moments of anxiety, depression. That stuff all leads to self-medication, substance use disorder. So my big emphasis today is giving people the tools to recognize, certain areas that people need to address. One of the biggest things is self-care. Most of us who help a lot of people out there give so much of ourselves that we have nothing left give so much of ourselves to others, we have nothing left for ourselves.
Right. And there's people out there that'll do that, and they come up with these ideas of people pleasing and things like that, which, by the way, is a bullshit concept. And I'm just going to put it out there. The reason we people please is because we want them to see us a certain way. We're actually doing it to get something. When you do that, you need to be the hero. You need to be the person. And so you become an emotional vampire. You're just kind of sucking out the emotions of the other person and stuff. But anyway, I get that. One of the things that happens a lot is we get a lot of people out there saying, especially these days, and you're probably coming across this, oh, I'm just going to be a life coach. I'm going to tell people what to do. Right. And these are people usually who have a lot of unpaid bills. They live in their mom's basement. They, they don't have their own shit together, and they want to go out and help other people. Right. It's become a very common thing. So that's why I understand the things that you work with as far as the NLP and beautiful, beautiful programs like that. Mm-hmm. When you get into life coaching, mm-hmm. Has that been a problem where people just come in and saying, oh, I just want to tell people how to live their lives and stuff like that?
For us, we protect our entity, I should say. I mean, when somebody comes in and wants to take a course with us, it's not that we just sign them up right away. We want to make sure they're a good fit too.
Okay, good.
Because here's the thing: the one thing I've learned a long time ago is you can only help those that want to help themselves. Right? I don't want to be somebody's excuse of why they haven't succeeded. You mean, or they haven't they haven't moved the needle. Even when I work with hundreds of people in terms of coaching clients across the country. I only take on so many per quarter, but I always task people out. The same thing I do with the courses is asking why you want to take it, because I never want to take somebody's money or anything else if they're not don't have skin in the game, where they're not going to advance. Because most people say or have an idea that they want to do something, or they want to help somebody, or they want to do this. I like to ask questions. Well, why is that? Yeah, man, I like to get to know somebody to see, if it goes back to what I said the first moment is I don't want to be somebody's reason of why they failed because they were unwilling to put the work and time in that they needed to do.
I love that. You also said something about it's good for personal improvement as well.
Oh, amazing.
So that if somebody comes in and says, maybe you don't want to be a sober coach or a life coach. Excuse me. I keep going to sober coach. You don't want to be a life coach. You don't want to be an NLP practitioner. Mm-hmm. But learning these skills can be good personally for you as well. Yeah. Is that something that you found or something that a lot of people respond to?
I'm glad that you brought it up because a lot of time when people are calling me about getting certified, I get it. Listen, I have a lot of people that come in and say, hey, I want to take an NLP because I'm a business owner. I want to make more money. I want to improve my bottom line. I want to improve my communication skills. I want to be a better leader, this and that. And it will do all of that. Certainly, it will do all of that. But what I get excited about, which they don't know, and it's hard to explain, is the changes within they're going to have through the process.
Right.
I get so very excited about that because I literally have people when they take courses, take a picture of themselves on day 1, take a picture of themselves on day 6, and they don't recognize themselves.
Right.
It is. I don't think that I can give it enough justice until you actually go through it. And I was the biggest skeptic of all, Scott. When I first went in and took practitioner training, Tony Robbins is an NLP practitioner who took something and ran with it, right?
Yeah.
When I went into practitioner training, they were asking me some things that we were getting. When was the first time that I ever felt anger? And it takes you back all the way back to as far as your subconscious mind can remember, right? And very skeptic, and I question everything. The words that came out of my mouth during a sitting with who I was learning with, I was shocked. The first time, and I'll share it. The first time I ever felt anger. This is how far back it went. First time I ever felt anger when I was coming out of my mother and I was cold. I was, what? But the process, you have to go through it to understand. Like if anyone knows me out there, knows that's not something that'll come out of my mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was like my aha moment where I was like, and then what we did is worked on the anger from every point in my life going forward. Specific, big events that if it didn't fully take away all that anger that I was carrying around, it at least made it manageable and brought it down and de-escalated a great deal. It was mind-blowing to me.
It brings clarity to things that didn't make sense before.
Absolutely.
And light bulbs go off and you got these aha moments. You're right. You're absolutely
change.
Right. Your perspective changes and your confidence level and just knowing yourself is an amazing part of a journey. So I want you to check out Obtaining Mastery. That's obtainingmastery.com, I believe.
That's correct.
It is. Yeah. Obtainingmastery.com. Look at what Joe and Maritza have going on over there in the different courses. And, I'm going to give you a big clue. You mentioned Tony Robbins. A lot of people out there think, I want to be the next Tony Robbins.
Right.
Well, you're never going to be the next Tony Robbins because your name isn't Tony Robbins. Okay, you could be the next Scott Jones. You could be the next Joe Kelley. You could be the next person. You got to be who you are. If you're taking these courses to try to become somebody that you've seen on the street or on TV, you're wasting your time. But if you want to unlock the potential that's within you to be who you are, and to create something of your own, then the world's wide open. Am I right in all this?
You're exactly right. You know what I mean? It's about, getting rid of those things that are no longer serving us, implementing ourselves with tools that can move that needle for us in any direction that we want to go. I mean, what are your goals? What are you doing today to move that needle? I know a lot of people out there that don't dive into a lot of personal development because here's the number one excuse I always get is, well, I can't afford it. But then I'll see them at Starbucks 4 times a day. You mean, where are your priorities at?
Hello.
But I'm just saying, like,
I know.
But I was once there. So I'm not judging people. I'm just saying, if you want to see change in your life, you got to start doing things differently. You don't have to change your goal, but change the way in which you go about it. But it starts with, where are our priorities? What does your day look like? I know a lot of people out there that stand on their phones all day long. I know people that watch, Netflix over and over and over again. Is that moving a needle in your life to where you want to become? Mike, one question I always ask myself every day of my life throughout the day is what I'm doing right now moving me toward my goals or further away?
I love that. We've had some people, Sandy's with us. Amazing to hear about the road to sobriety. It's an incredible story from Hillary. Hillary said, great interview, guys. Hillary happens to be my daughter up in Connecticut.
Oh, nice.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Hillary.
Joe, we could spend all day talking about this. We're actually going to be doing a show this afternoon at 5:00 called The Champion's Journey. It'll be myself and Joe and Mark Astor, the attorney, and we usually have Randy Grimes on from the NFL, but he's not going to be available today. But it'll be the three of us will do the show, and it'll be great. I want you to check out, first of all, check out Joe's book, Badge Bars to Beyond, and go Amazon or go to badgebarsbeyond.com and find out about it.
Yeah,
also, go to obtainingmastery.com to find out about the courses and more information about Joe and his wife. What are you going to say?
If you go to badgebarsbeyond.com and you put in your email, you'll get the first chapter for free as well. So it's kind of freebie there for you to check it out if you don't want to purchase online.
There you go. The only agreement is if you don't like it, you have to forget it immediately. No, I'm just kidding. Joe, has always been great to see you. What's next for Joe and in your family? Because, here we are. As down as out as you can get as a police officer sitting in prison, all the way up to, owning your business, making connections throughout the country with CWA and our good friends Georgina and all those people, and spreading your information, your knowledge. What is the next thing for you?
Me, I have a lot of speaking engagements coming up around the country. As I said, I'm the union liaison for CWA locals, especially here in Florida, CWA 3140, which is all of Florida and Puerto Rico. But we're spreading across the country in terms of all the other locals. My next step is, most of my friends that I went to the academy with are all chiefs, different departments, obviously all up in the Northeast that have spread out. It's being a liaison, as we've started down here with you and Karen, is being a liaison towards the police departments down here. Being somebody like a resource outside of the entity that they can turn to. And it doesn't. I'm not talking about just substance use disorder. I'm talking about mental health. Stress, anxiety, trauma, the stuff that we see on a daily basis. And I've been lucky enough to have survived everything that I've gone through in my life. I have a whole bunch of experience and a whole bunch of resources, and that's just being ready to keep adding resources like we did with you and Karen and many of the other people and Mark, who will be on later on tonight, and having an impact. So I'm always open to a discussion. If anyone ever wants to email me, it's joe@obtainingmastery.com. I'm open to helping anybody, whether it's somebody that, needs help with mental health, substance use disorder, just needs to talk, or certifications or trainings that we do around the country. So
reach out to Joe. Great guy, passionate about what he does, and just of good nature. I don't know. You talk about this anger that you carried around for so long. I haven't seen it. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I think that's great. Obtainingmastery.com. You've been watching the Sober Life podcast. Please share this with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And certainly make sure that you're around at 5 o'clock this afternoon for the Champions Journey podcast. We'll be talking to Joe some more. We'll have Mark Astor with us. And we're going to dig a little deeper into, going through and a story of addiction and pain and finding your way to the other side, the Champion's Journey. That's what we're going to be talking about. For now, Scott Jones for Joe Kelley. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.